Hi, folks. Dan Bird here with the Daily Scan, the day after Christmas. Hope everyone had a really nice time, nice, enjoyable Christmas with your families or holiday season. Christmas fell on Hanukkah too, same day. So happy Hanukkah for those that celebrate that. Today, you can see I have Santa Claus with Bitcoin. So I am going to do a special session on Bitcoin today because I've had a few people say they don't really understand Bitcoin, so they're not invested in it. Just full disclosure, I'm not either, but I do understand how it works, and I'm going to explain that to everyone from a high level. It's much more complicated than what I can do in 30 minutes. So, but it's just going to be an explanation of what Bitcoin is, and hopefully by the end of it, people will at least have an understanding of what it is and how it's created. So to get started, let's talk about this disclaimer. I'm not a financial planner or advisor. I cannot give you financial advice. This is meant for educational purposes only, not to recommend any particular buys or sells. You have to understand your own trading style and risk profile. And if you would like to engage with a financial advisor, you can go to this website right here and look them up, see if they're reputable. So as always, past performance does not guarantee future results. So everything we do here is with charts, and that basically illustrates past performance, not necessarily a guarantee of future results. The reason that I use charts is for risk mitigation. So risk management, basically, just to help me understand good entry points and good exit points. So let's jump into it real quick. I'll go to the dashboard and see what the market did today. You can see equities did pretty well. S&P ended a little bit lower, but kind of flat for the day after having a pretty nice rally the first 2 days. So the Santa rally is still continuing. We'll look at that in a minute. NASDAQ also kind of flat. The Dow was up slightly, but it's pretty much flat as well. The VIX, though, is still down and actually dropped a little bit lower today, which is very good. We want to see that. That's good into the end of the year. The sectors are kind of mixed. Technology was right in the middle, but technology was the best performer. I'll show you that in a minute. Mostly because it makes up the biggest part of the S&P. So this sector by itself makes up about 33% of the whole S&P. Consumer staples, which is a defensive sector, is at the top today. It's starting to move higher. Financials also. Everything actually, these down here were moving lower. So discretionary is one of the aggressive sectors. It started to move lower, but basically it's flat. You can see the chart right there. Utilities the same way. So everything was kind of flat for the day off of the last couple of days' nice increase. So we'll take a look at the industries down here: apparel, real estate, industrials, quite a mix. Industrials there, financials, two financials, one healthcare, the real mix of industry groups in the top 10. So a little bit of everything. So the whole market was pretty broad today. And then take a look over here at the top 10 combined list. This is pretty interesting. So again, I've said it before, and if you go back to my very first YouTube video where I talk about how I do my scan, the daily scan, it comes from a list of stocks that have made the top 10s. And I'll show you what that looks like in a minute, but take a look at this one. Quantum Corporation up 50% today. Now, I had a subscriber last week sent me a note thanking me for providing this list of the top 10. And he got in way back here, down near where that pullback was. So that's the thing that I teach is find good stocks. And this list is great stocks. Wait for a pullback and then jump in. And he did, and he rode that big 50% up, that big, huge white bar right there. And then went up another 50% today. Pulled back, about halfway past that first point. But overall, this is a great stock. Here's SoundHound, again, one that was on the list. Lunar looks really good. It's breaking out. So that's at 19 now. Redwire, which is one that we're still in, had a great day today. I may take half off the table tomorrow and just let the rest ride. And hopefully I can get I can fill up the whole daily scan list with stocks like that. And this is one that was on our list before. I might get back into this tomorrow. So it stopped out, but now it looks like it's starting to make a run again. So all of these are really good. Look at Peloton. Peloton has just been going sideways. Interestingly, let's take a look. I'm going to show you the new stock charts ACP, Advanced Charting Platform. And I want to take a look at Peloton in particular, because it looks to me like it may have a squeeze setting up. So here's my 5-panel standard default setting. I've got a monthly down here in the lower left, a weekly in the lower right, a daily in the upper left, and then the Keltner channels, which I covered this week on the Technical Tuesday, and then a 30-minute chart in the far right-hand side. So this is the S&P right now. But I want to look at Peloton. So let's look at PTON. And yes, absolutely. It is in a squeeze right now. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days. 6 days of a squeeze. I have it extending out 2 more days, so you have to ignore these last 2 dots. But these red dots right here means that it's been in a squeeze for 6 days. And according to John Carter, he likes to get in when they're in for 5 days. So today would be the day to jump in. Now, it still needs to break out of this sideways channel. It hasn't quite done that yet, but this looks like it might be a good time. You can see over here just bouncing off of the 21-day, starting to move higher in the Keltner channels. Looks pretty nice on the 30-day chart. Looks like today would have been a good day to get in. You might get in tomorrow. And this is the monthly down here. So on the monthly chart, if we look at that a little closer, you can see down here that the ADX line has been below 25, which is very low volatility. So when it starts moving up above the 25 level, then it can run for quite a while. Remember, this is a monthly chart, so each of these bars represents 1 month. So on a 1 month basis, it just broke out above the 21. In this case, it's a 21-month moving average, but it's just breaking out above that. So this curls back up, and if it goes over 25, this could run for quite a while. Could get back to the highs over here, $150. So right now we're at not even $10. Let's see, I think we're at $10.26 today. So just a little over $10. So interesting, this might be one to keep an eye on. If we look at this on a weekly chart, again, you can see that the ADX is already broken above the 25 point right back here. And now it's just going sideways for the last 5 or 6 days. So that's why it's given a squeeze on the daily chart right here. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days. And the actual breakout is up here at about 11. If it breaks out above 11, then it's going to be breaking out of this channel. So a lot of people that watch squeezes, and I know there's some subscribers that have talked about this, they look for stocks that are in a squeeze like that, and they put their buy order just above the top of the channel. So the buy order in this case would probably be right at about 11. So when it breaks out above 11, it's probably going to continue to run. So Peloton looks really interesting on this chart. And here's the Keltner channels that I covered earlier this week, just breaking above the 21. So it's the highest level up here is 1150. So it may very likely go up and then pull back or go sideways for a while. But still, this might be a good time to get in. We might just do that tomorrow. We'll see. All right, so that's Peloton. So that's again, on the dashboard, you can see Peloton's right here in the top 10 list from my top 10 group. Select quote. It's another one. Looks pretty good. So it's just breaking out right here as well. So you can see higher highs, higher lows, pulls back to the 21, and then starts to break out. Now, it might have run a little bit further than I'd like, but certainly one to watch, and it may hit our scan at some point. Speaking of the scans, Let's take a look at what we've got. So I'm going to show you one. This one here, I actually did not buy it, but it's on the list to maybe get into tomorrow. And this is from the stocks near the 21 EMA. So that's the reversion to the mean. Hippo Holdings. Had not even heard of it, this stock. So we click on that. You can see right there, just getting above, just coming off the 50-day, just moving today above the 21. And momentum is starting to turn higher. So this one actually looks pretty good right now. It could easily run back up here to the high at 34. So we're at about 28.41. I have a limit order in at 27.50. So if it were to pull back, it did not pull back to 27.50. It just continued to go higher. But if it does pull back to 27.50, then we might be in that one. So that was one of the scans today. What else do we have? Here's stocks that have made 52-week highs and now have a downtrend reversal. Right there, you can see NN was on our list before. Might be one we want to get back in again. So that one's just breaking above, same thing, down to the 50 and started back up above the 21-day. Never went below zero up here, so it's still technically in an uptrend. So that's one we might add tomorrow as well. Tomorrow, I think, is going to be a pullback day because the market's moved quite a bit. I'll show you the S&P in a minute. Let's see. This is a downtrend reversal using the momentum bars, and you can see Peloton's on this one as well, as is HIMS, which had a great run, but HIMS, that's a failed breakout right there. So I would not get into this one yet. I'd wait a little bit, even though it's right at the 21. It went all the way to the top of its range and then pull all the way back before the end of the day. So that's not one that I would want to be in. And one way we can look at that is on the 10-minute chart. So you can see right here, had a nice run in the morning and then pull back and kept on going down the whole day and actually ended at the low of the day, right near the low of the day. So not one that I would probably want to get in. Let's see, what else do we have here? Here's a 521 cross, also HIMS. It's the same chart. Showed up on 2 scans, but I just explained that. I probably wouldn't want to get in that one. Here's an RSI 5. Now, a lot of people like the RSI 2. I like the RSI 5 because it's a little smoother. And Costco shows up on this one today. So if we look at Costco, you can see it's pulled back, trying to make another run. If I look at the RSI 5 button on my chart right here, there's what this one's looking for. You know, the RSI, I talked about the RSI on a technical Tuesday a couple of weeks ago, pulls back below the oversold area, and right when it starts to move higher, when it crosses back above it, that's when we get the signal. So this one might be ready to go. Costco certainly is a good company. Well, we'll see. This is one I'm going to put up here, and you can screenshot it if you want. This is the TTM squeeze on the bullish side. So CrowdStrike is on here. EAT, which I did add to the list today from this list. What else? RDW, which is already on the list. SelectQuote, which I showed you before. If we look at CrowdStrike, actually, let me look at it on the this one here, because it's showing that it has a squeeze. So CrowdStrike, and yes, it's got a 3-day squeeze down here right now. You can see 3 red dots. So it's just moving sideways through this channel and continue. Today was a green dot. So it's starting to pull out of the squeeze. So it might be getting ready to fire right there. So 3, John Carter says he likes to see 5, but doesn't mean you can't get in early. So the momentum looks like it's starting to move higher. So that's one to keep an eye on. For those that are in CrowdStrike, that should be good news for you. What else do we have? I think that might be it. We've got a bearish 521 cross with Carnival. So Carnival sitting right here on the downside where the 5 is getting ready to cross the 21 to the downside. So this one might be rolling over, getting ready to start a downtrend. Doesn't mean it will, and it's certainly outperforming its peers. So everything else looks pretty good with Carnival. So it might just be in a sideways pattern right now. Just out of curiosity, let's see what it looks like over here. Yeah, it's got a long squeeze right now. So it is in a squeeze. So even with that 5 crossing the 21, of course, the squeeze doesn't tell you which direction it's going to go. So you can see the momentum is starting to move lower down here. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days in a squeeze right now. And the indication are that the squeeze is going to fire to the downside, but that doesn't mean it will. It doesn't mean you should anticipate that happening. Earnings were just happened last week on 12/20. So one to keep an eye on. It is in a squeeze and it could just as easily reverse and go back higher. So all the indications are, though, that it's looks like it wants to move lower. Let's look at this on a 1-year chart. So there's the 1 year. You can see right there, just a sideways pattern. Hit a high, so it does need to rest. It's probably going to go sideways for a little while. It could come back down to the 50 down here at about 24. We'll see. All right, that's it for the daily scan for today. Let's take a look at what I've got in it right now before I get to Bitcoin. And here's some that I added. So first off, an RDW, I moved the stop up to 13.95. Let's just go down the list here. Here's Google. So the blue line is the original stop. The vertical green line is where we entered. The blue line was the original stop, and the red green line up here is the current stop. So you can see Google has been in a sideways channel here for a while. So that one might move higher. And anytime I see that, I like to take a look at it on the squeeze. No, there's no squeeze. And momentum is starting to decline. So this one might be just going to be in a sideways channel for a while, which is fine. We'll just let it go. We already took half of our profit on Google. So we'll let that run for a little while. Let's see what else. RDW has been doing great. May take half off tomorrow on this one. So there's what we got in. Blue line is the original stop, and the current stop is right there. Actually, it's a little bit higher than that. It's actually at 13.95 right now. So I move this up slightly right there. So that's where the current stop is. So I might take half off right there tomorrow, and then see if it'll run a little higher. That's about 20% right now. In what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days. We started at it's at 17 right now. We started at 1340, 1350. So I think that's about a 20% gain so far. The stop would be a 3% gain. This one down here, this should be 88. I was in the wrong cell when I entered that 1395. 88 is our stop on this one, so 4%. There's Walmart. Walmart should do well in the end of the year. So we just got in day before Christmas. It moved up a little bit today. Stop was way down here though. So we'll let that one run. SoFi did really well today. SoFi is another one we just got in day before Christmas. Had a really nice up day today, but we're not moving the stop yet. Stop's down here. We'll let that one run higher. That's looking good. Amazon never executed, still did not execute. It actually went down today. So I had a proposed entry at 2:30 the day before Christmas. It never hit it, and it actually declined today instead. So Eris, a water company, didn't do much today, but still above our entry point, which is good. And all of the momentum looks pretty good. It's moving higher. And EAT, we just entered today. This is Brinker International. This is a food chain. Look at that beautiful uptrend that it's been in. It's continuing the uptrend right here. So today was the first day. The momentum looks like it's just getting ready to cross. So we'll see if that can continue. It ended with a spinning top doji, however, which means indecision. So this could move sideways or start to come down. We'll see. So our stop on that right now is only a 2% loss if we're stopped out of that one. Not bad. And here's Hippo, which never executed either. So 27.50 was the price we're shooting for. It went up to 28. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. So right now, all of these look pretty good. The whole market's looking pretty good, by the way. If we look at, let me take out some of these. And let's look at IWM, because this is when it starts to run. IWM is starting to move. This is the Russell 2000. So right there, you can see it's actually 4 days in a row of higher lows and 3 days in a row of higher highs. That is the definition of an uptrend. Even though the 21 crossed below here, which actually gave a medium-term down signal, but that's just a momentum lag. So it's going to curve back up because these are moving up, and it will likely go right back above it. So we'd like to see this get back above zero for this trend to continue. The medium-term momentum and certainly the accumulation distribution and money flow still has work to do. It needs to go higher as well. You can see the accumulation distribution really needs to move higher. It's sitting right in the cloud, which is a neutral area right now. But this is the strong time of the year for small caps. So this is when they should start to run. Historically, they start this week, and then they run up into April. So we're going to see if this can get back up to that high right there. TNA, which I actually did buy, it's doing well as well. It looks just like IWM. So TNA was up nicely today. So that one looks pretty good. Okay, so that's it for the daily scan portion of the show. Let's talk about Bitcoin. So I'm going to use some slides for this. So as I mentioned, some folks said that they didn't really understand Bitcoin. So I wanted to just do a primer on what Bitcoin is and help people understand what it is and its value. In fact, I'm going to name this session tonight, I'm going to name it Bitcoin. What is it good for? So in order to understand Bitcoin, you first have to understand blockchain. Bitcoin is built on the blockchain. So what is blockchain? It's a distributed database or ledger. So it's a ledger system, best known for cryptocurrencies, but it doesn't have to be crypto. Blockchains can be used to make data in any industry, meaning it cannot be altered. It's immutable. It cannot be altered. So you can use it for any industry. And that's really important to understand. It's not just crypto. So how does blockchain work? Well, first, a transaction is requested. It's then sent to a block in the chain. Block representing the transaction is created. It's then sent to all of the network nodes that are part of the blockchain. It is not yet part of the chain. It needs to be validated by all the other nodes around it. And this is what makes the ledger system immutable, meaning it can't be changed, but also decentralized, because it is being validated by all of the other blocks. So this is how Bitcoin works, but we're not up to Bitcoin yet. This is just blockchain. So for the transaction gets sent to the block, sent to every node in the network. Every node of the network then validates that it is accurate and correct. And every one of those nodes has to validate it before that can be created in the block. And once it is validated, the block is then added to the existing blockchain and the transaction is complete. So now it is part of the chain. And once it's part of the chain, it will continue to be part of the chain forever because it is now immutable. It is part of that blockchain. All right, so that's how blockchain works. There's 4 types of blockchain. There's a public blockchain. This is what cryptocurrency typically uses. You can use it for document validation as well. You can have a private blockchain. This is used for supply chain asset ownership. So for instance, Maersk Shipping, a huge shipping company, they actually use blockchain to identify what is in the containers that they are shipping on their ships. So each container becomes a block in the blockchain. It is validated through the block. It becomes immutable, which means it can't be changed. And when it comes off the ship on the other end, it can be validated through this ledger system, and everyone knows that it's accurate. So that's how it can be used with supply chain. Remember, I said it's not just cryptocurrency. You could have a consortium blockchain, and that's something that can be used for banking or research. Research is a great place. So for doing research on drugs, for instance, they can be part of the blockchain, and all of the other researchers are part of that chain as well, and they have to validate the research before it's added to the chain. And then finally, a hybrid blockchain, transparency, upgrading. This can be used for medical records and for real estate. So this is an area where I am expecting blockchain to go at some point with real estate, and that is with title searches. What I just described with blockchain, remember, it's immutable. Once it is validated, the ledger is validated by the other blocks in the chain, it cannot be changed. So why do we need to hire a title search company to search our titles, pay them a fee, when if we put everything into blockchain, then we know right away that that title is already valid. If it's part of the chain, then it has to be valid. It's immutable. So that's an area, a good example in real estate of how title searches will eventually be part of a blockchain as well. But today we're going to talk about cryptocurrency, which is over here. So you can see it's just one part of the whole application of blockchain. Advantage of the blockchain is trustless. It's immutable, automates trusted transactions between counterparties who do not need to know each other. It's unstoppable. Once the conditions are programmed into the chain and the protocol is met, then it's going to execute and nothing can stop it. No bank, no government, no third party can stop it. It's immutable, which I talked about, cannot be changed, and is decentralized. And that's the key with Bitcoin, is that it's decentralized, it's not beholden to any government whatsoever. It's just everybody in the chain, all the other blocks in the chain are what validates each block that is added to the Bitcoin blockchain. So I haven't started talking about Bitcoin yet. All I'm talking about are the blocks in the chain so far. Blockchain limitations, speed and scale. Bitcoin and Ethereum as an example. You know, the number of transactions per second. As the blockchain gets bigger and bigger, this is as of 2016. I'm not sure what size it is now, but as it continues to get bigger, it will require more and more compute power, and it will require more scale and speed. So the computers are going to have to keep up. The computers will have to get faster in order for Bitcoin to continue to expand. Privacy, need for business confidentiality versus transparency. Power consumption, this is a big one, because as the computers need to get more powerful, they consume more energy as well. So this is an area where NVIDIA started playing even before AI, because blockchain or Bitcoin in particular needs much faster chips in order to actually execute the blocks. Unknown security, $50 million was stolen. This is Ethereum. So there is potential for theft or hacking into the information in somebody's wallet. Now that the Bitcoin has, once it's created, it's immutable, but if it's in somebody's digital wallet, it can be accessed. So each Bitcoin gets a key, and that key is in a digital wallet. And evolving the code, who updates the software to address bugs and changes in the operating environment. So these are some of the potential limitations of blockchain. What is blockchain mining? So that now we're starting to get into Bitcoin and talking about mining of Bitcoin. Blockchain mining is the process of adding new transactions to a blockchain and verifying the integrity of the data in the chain. So just exactly what I explained before of how a block gets created and added to the chain. That's called blockchain mining. The benefits is, transaction validation, decentralization. Miners are rewarded with tokens or fees, incentivizing network participation. This is the key to Bitcoin. So keep this in mind as I explain how Bitcoin is created. Remember this line right here. Miners are rewarded with tokens. So in other words, when a miner in the blockchain creates a new block in the chain, they are rewarded with a Bitcoin. So think about that for a second. They are not actually creating Bitcoin. what they are creating is a block in the chain. And if they successfully create that next block, then they are rewarded with a token. And that token is called Bitcoin. So I'm going to show you how all of that works here in a second. All right, so hopefully everybody's with me, following along. So now we'll talk about how Bitcoin blockchain works. So you have miners here that are creating blocks, and the block is created and sent off to be validated. There is a puzzle that needs to be solved. So this is all part of Bitcoin, how Bitcoin is created. There's a puzzle that needs to be solved in order for it to become proof of work. Proof of work is essentially the blockchain consensus mechanism in which computing power is used to verify cryptocurrency transactions and add them to the blockchain. So remember when I was describing blockchain, how all the other blocks around it had to validate the transaction before it could get added to the chain. That is proof of work. So in order to be added to the chain and all the other blocks around it have to verify it, it has to solve a puzzle. And the first miner who solves the next puzzle is then validated by the rest of the blocks, and it is then, through the proof of work, then allowed to be added to the chain. So it goes to the miners, broadcasting the proof of work. Proof of work is validated, it's verified by the miners, and then the whole process starts over. So once it's verified by the miners, that's when the block is added to the chain. And, oops, I thought I had another image on here. But anyway, it's added to the chain, and then that's when the miner gets a reward for solving the puzzle. And that reward is called Bitcoin. So risk of Bitcoin mining doesn't guarantee a huge return on investment. You'll see that should become apparent. Increased costs due to high and sophisticated computing requirements. I talked about that already. This is where NVIDIA has been playing. Does not give any legal protection since it is decentralized. So if somebody steals your key, then it is gone forever. It has irreversible transactions, which means you should be careful. The value keeps fluctuating, and we certainly have seen that might lead you to stay underwater. What this means is the value keeps fluctuating to the downside. Now it also fluctuates to the upside, and I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. All right, so here's how mining works. Yeah, this is going to explain it. So this is the way mining works. First, a transaction is created. The puzzle with unverified transactions is sent to the pool. All right, the miners then get that new puzzle. They then create a cluster of transactions and is sent to miners to solve the puzzle. So this is where it goes to all of the Bitcoin miners out there. And all of those miners, which have huge data centers of compute power to try to solve this puzzle, they start working on the puzzle. The first miner that solves the puzzle sends it back to the block, the Bitcoin block. So they say, I have solved this puzzle. If they are the first ones, then it gets added to the block, the Bitcoin blockchain. And then the miner is rewarded with 3.3 1/8 Bitcoin. That was the latest halving of Bitcoin. Bitcoin started with 50, and I'll show you that in a minute. But right now it's 3 1/8 Bitcoin is what their reward is for creating the next block. So they're not getting money, they're getting Bitcoin as a reward. And what they're creating is not Bitcoin, they're creating a block in the blockchain. That's what they do. That's what the miners do. And Bitcoin is just their reward. Depending on the compute power and energy, it can take several years to mine a full Bitcoin. And that time is getting longer and longer as the puzzles get more and more complicated, and you need more and more compute power and more energy in order to create that next block, solve the puzzle to create the next block in the Bitcoin chain. So it can take years in order to mine a full Bitcoin. So right now, it was just halved. It used to be 6 1/4. Now it's 3 1/8. But Bitcoin is selling for, it's under 100,000 today. But let's say 100, you get $300+ for creating one of these, even if it takes you a few years to do it. And if you have a huge data center that's trying to create multiple Bitcoins in a few years, you can certainly start to make money. But the ROI is not that great. So what's the Bitcoin distribution today? So 21 million is the maximum that Bitcoin will ever be. That's why it has scarcity built into it. And that scarcity, just regular supply and demand, is what keeps the price of Bitcoin going up. Now, the reason it keeps going up is because people are still willing to pay that price for it. Because people that understand this, like Michael Saylor, for instance, they know that there won't be, once it gets to 21 million, there won't be any more made. So the scarcity is going to drive the price up over time, assuming that people still want it. And at this point, lots of people do. So you'll notice that 57% of Bitcoin is owned by individuals, 3.6% is by companies. And I'm going to show you some of those companies at the end. There's now 3.9% in ETFs. Interestingly, the ETFs now, which is fairly new, is actually eclipsed the companies. Governments are buying Bitcoin. Incidentally, MicroStrategy is now in the NASDAQ. So any large investment house that has mutual funds that require them to invest in the NASDAQ, by default, are investing in Bitcoin. 6.6% is not yet mined. So remember, 21 million is the maximum it will ever go to. There's still 6% that's not mined yet. 5.2% is in Satoshi's wallet. This is the guy that first came up with it. And nobody knows this for sure, but they're just assuming that he has that amount of Bitcoin that he created and kept for himself. And then the miners make up 3.4%. But look at this, 17%, the biggest percentage other than 57 for individuals. The biggest percentage in this pie is Bitcoin that has been lost forever. So once you lose the key to Bitcoin, you can never get it back. And there's no mechanism that can allow you to go in and complain to somebody or some government entity or some consumer agency or anyone else that you lost your Bitcoin and somehow can I get it back. If you lose it, it is gone forever. Or if it's stolen, if somebody hacks your account and steals your code, then your Bitcoin is lost forever. So 17% of all the Bitcoin out there is in that category. So Bitcoin halving, this is something that's built into the Bitcoin structure. 21 million is the maximum that has been mined, or maximum that will be mined. Started in 2009. And the halving occurs every 210,000 blocks. So remember, the miners are creating a block. When they create a block, they are rewarded with Bitcoin. So when it started, they were rewarded with 50 Bitcoin. And then the first halving happened in 2012, where it went down to 25 Bitcoin. So every time they create one of these blocks, they get 25 Bitcoin. Whatever that price is, it's set by the market, but the miners are rewarded with a Bitcoin, 25 in that case. In 2016, it was halved again. They get 12.5 Bitcoin. 2020, it went to 6.25 Bitcoin. In 2024, April of this year, it was halved again, and it's now at 3.125 Bitcoin. The next slide is going to really, I think, bring all of this home. So there's the price of Bitcoin. This is pretty accurate. I didn't look at Bitcoin before we started this, but I will at the end. I think it's down around 95,000, 94,000 today. I'm not sure exactly, but it's pulled back. But this is the high, 108,370. But this is where it started, 2009. So they were rewarded with 50 Bitcoin. You can see the journey that Bitcoin has been on ever since then. There's the halving dates. So you can see right there where the halving occurred. So it went from 50 to 25, then it went to 12.5 and 6.25, and then recently the 3.125. But you can see usually when halving occurs, Bitcoin pulls back for some period of time, and then it takes off after that. So how much does it take off? This basically is most of the things that I just talked about. It's halved every 210,000 blocks, roughly every 4 years. Issuance is capped at 21 million. Right now, there are 19,900,000 Bitcoin in circulation. Leaves little over 1 million yet to be released or mined. So you would think out of 21 million, there's almost 20 million that's already been mined. Only 1 million left. That should not be that much longer before it gets to 21 million. Well, the halving slows the pace of production. And it also, every time a block is created, the puzzle gets more and more complicated. So it needs more compute power and more energy. The final halving is expected to be in the year 2140. That represents 29 more halving events. Think about that for a second. Right now we are at 3 1/8. 29 more times that's going to get halved. Estimated 3 to 4 million Bitcoin are lost forever. That's what I talked about before. So they are gone. So halving is kind of a reverse compounding. Just to get this point home, by 2050, now remember 2140 is projected to be when the last Bitcoin will get mined. So 2050 is about 90 years before that. But by 2050, the reward will be 1/20th of a Bitcoin. Right now, the reward is 3 1/8. By 2050, which is only, 25 years from now? No, yeah, 25 years roughly. It's going to be 1/20th of a Bitcoin. I actually extended this all the way out to 2040, and there are so many zeros after the decimal point that I just gave up, and I said, it just mind-boggling to try to even imagine what that percentage of a Bitcoin will be at some point. So I just took the 2050 timeframe, and it's 1/20th of a Bitcoin at that point. So this gives you an idea of what this journey looks like. So let's take a look at some of the gains and losses. So first of all, right there is 2,600% gain. That was after the second halving. Right after that, there was an 80% loss. So keep that in mind. Next, there was a 370% gain up to 2019 when it went to 13,000. And then there was a 40% loss. And then there was a 650% gain after that halving in 2020. And right after that was a 74% loss. And right now we are at roughly 650%, which is pretty much the same as this gain over here. Also notice that these losses right here, this one, and this one, these two are the same distance, roughly, almost 80% loss. This is about half that distance, but the angle is the same. So this is what's called in technical analysis called symmetry. And charts and assets love symmetry. The stock market, anything that can be charted like this, loves symmetry. So if and when there is another reversal like this, it will likely be as steep as that, and it very well could be the same magnitude, anywhere between 40 and 80% the next time it begins to move lower. There is no telling when that will be. Nobody knows when that will be, but it most likely will happen at some point. So that is the current, right? This is from the inception of Bitcoin, the Bitcoin journey. Hopefully now with everything that I've explained with how blockchain works and how Bitcoin is created, it's actually the blocks that are created, and Bitcoin is a reward for creating the block, but that's basically how it works. Another interesting point, which I noticed when I was putting this chart together, is that there is a very nicely defined trend line right across these lows right here. So if and when it starts to reverse again, it will likely come back to this trend line, wherever that might be. Right now, it's at probably at around 50,000. So about halfway, be about a 50% reduction if it came back to this trend line, which would be in line with this 40% back here. So that was just an interesting technical thing that I noticed. All right, just a couple of other little interesting points before I conclude. These are just some charts that I ran across and found. This one says Bitcoin and global M2. Bitcoin lags the global M2 money supply by about 10 weeks. So this was where we were in September. Now in December, obviously Bitcoin has gone much higher than that. But this is, let's see, September, October, November, December. So this is roughly middle of October right here. So 10 weeks from that would be November, which would be right about now. actually. So 10-week lag implies that this downtrend in the M2 money supply is right about where we are now. And if it continues to mirror it like it has, then that implies that the downtrend might be just beginning. Not meaning, it's not saying that it is or will, just saying that, just an interesting correlation. Now, let's talk about MicroStrategy and Bitcoin. As of December, Bitcoin MicroStrategy owns approximately 439,000 Bitcoin. Spent around $23 billion to acquire Bitcoin. Average price right now is $58,000. Now, Michael Saylor says he will never sell it. So we'll see. If it does drop to 50,000, it's going to be interesting the way that he has taken on debt in order to buy Bitcoin. He may get margin calls. He might not have much choice if he gets margin calls like that. Holdings represent only 2% of Bitcoin total supply, so it's not very big. August of 2020, they made their first buy. Company steadily increased the holdings. The buy and hold strategy in December accumulated 439 Bitcoin. Why did they buy Bitcoin? He believes it's a hedge against inflation, like digital gold. Corporate treasury strategy by converting cash reserves into Bitcoin aims to maximize returns and protect against currency devaluation. Certainly can do that. Brand positioning. MicroStrategy is now understood by the industry as a Bitcoin strategy. Stock has become closely tied to Bitcoin's performance. Key trends: volatility experiences significant price swings. So it's a proxy basically for Bitcoin. That's what MicroStrategy has become. And then finally, this is the last slide. These are the 8 largest corporate holders of Bitcoin in 2024. MicroStrategy, obviously, is the biggest one, 439,000. The second one is a miner, Mara, Marathon Holdings, 40,000. The next one is also a miner, Riot, 16,000 Bitcoin. But look who's number 4. Tesla. Our good buddy Elon Musk is the 4th largest holder of Bitcoin. So Tesla's involvement brought significant mainstream attention to Bitcoin and its utility. Number 5 is Hut Mining. That's also a miner, 9,100. Coinbase is an exchange. So since Bitcoin is not traded per se on the stock market, in order to convert Bitcoin to cash or convert dollars or to buy Bitcoin, essentially, you would do it through an exchange, and Coinbase is the largest exchange out there that converts your dollar bills into Bitcoin. They actually have over 9,000 Bitcoin. Block or Square, they are the number 7 holder of Bitcoin. Committed to Bitcoin adoption, company's Cash App allows users to buy and hold Bitcoin. Block continues to invest in Bitcoin for its treasury. Very similar to MicroStrategy's process. And then finally, number 8 is Galaxy Digital Holdings. It's an investment management firm that's also been buying Bitcoin. They're in number 8 position now with more than 8,000. They could easily move above Block at any time. So those are the 8 largest holders of Bitcoin today. And that brings me to the end of my presentation. Hopefully people have a better understanding of what Bitcoin is, how it's created, and what its future might look like. Of course, no one knows for sure, but Bitcoin, because of its scarcity and its immutability and its decentralization, is something that should continue. It's not beholden to any government. So it theoretically could just continue to get scarcer and scarcer, which means more and more expensive. If you think about that figure that I put out there of 1/20th of a Bitcoin by 2050, imagine what the price of Bitcoin needs to be in order for it to make sense for a miner to mine the Bitcoin. So just think about that. If they only get 1/20th of a Bitcoin 25 years from now in order to mine Bitcoin, and there's still 90 years left to finish out to the 21 million, imagine what the price of Bitcoin needs to be for miners to actually stay in business. So just that thought alone implies that Bitcoin So it's at 3 Bitcoin right now. So that's roughly about 7. So we need to be about 700,000 to a million in 25 years in order to make sense for miners to continue to mine it. Probably it will need to be more than that to continue to mine it. And every time it's halved, that gets cut in half. So when it's halved again in 2054, I think it actually would be 2056 would be the next halving event. It would be 1/40th of a Bitcoin, and that will just continue out to 2140. So kind of mind-boggling to think about. Let's look at Bitcoin. Actually, let's go to the website. And one of the best ways to do it is if you go to the market bias page. Bitcoin is down here at the bottom. You can look right now. You can see it actually had a bad day today. So it ended at about 95,000. So starting to head lower. It's right at that about 8 to 10 week period that follows the M2 money supply, global money supply, which has been falling since the middle of October. So if it does end up mirroring that, then this may fall just like that as well. Interestingly, the high, if you look at that candle on the high right there, let me zoom in a little bit on this. So this one right here, that was December, it's about 2 weeks ago. That is not only a doji, which is indecision, usually marking a reversal, it is also a shooting star doji, which is also, shooting star is also implying and pretty reliable, a reversal candle. So that happened right here on December 17th. December 18th, 1 week before Christmas, is when it started its downtrend. So now it pulled back to the 50, came back up just above the 21 and got rejected again, sitting right at the 50 again. If this falls tomorrow, then it will basically be a broken chart. It will, especially if it falls below 92,000. If it gets below 90, where these two lows were, then this will be a broken chart. Right down here is 90,500 right there. So if it drops below 90, then it may very likely be following that M2 money supply chart. Keep that in mind. All right, that's it for today. Sorry for such a long one, but I hope that helped with understanding Bitcoin a little bit better. Let me know if you have any questions on anything. For those out there that, I'm sure I'll get comments, but for those out there that are experts at Bitcoin, I did not do it complete justice. There's a lot more complexity to it than what I outlined here. And everyone will have an opinion on the growth and the potential for Bitcoin. So just keep that in mind. But I did the best that I could to try and make it as simple as possible for most people to understand what Bitcoin is and how it's created. So thanks a lot for joining, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Take care.